This, my fellow notebook aficionados, is the all-new Aorus Master 18 from the good folks over at Gigabyte. And after my very positive experience with their mid-range RTX 4070 gamer from last year and having seen this one in Vegas during CES, I was actually quite excited to review it. The 18-inch behemoth is a true unapologetic gaming monster with all the RGB, vents, exhausts and styling to show for it. And I'm actually quite okay with that, since it does the things it's apparently been designed for very, very well, which would of course be running games. Gigabyte also stepped up their display game quite spectacularly, and the Master comes with a QHD+ 240Hz mini-LED display. And guys, whether you want all those FPS for clicking on heads in CS2 or want to enjoy Assassin's Creed or The Last of Us 2 for PC in all of their HDR glory, this display is awesome. The Aorus is also the first laptop in the studio with Nvidia's second in line, the RTX 5080. And truthfully, very much like with their desktop counterparts, if you do not need the additional VRAM, the 5080 might be where it's at for 2025. Because you would have to think really long and really hard if you want to shell out a few $100 more for the upgrade, or simply move from DLSS quality to DLSS performance to make up for the missing GPU horsepower. So let's see if the Aorus Master can carve out a niche against the already established competition in the realm of flagship 18-inch gaming laptops. Let's get into it. When it comes to specs, we get the Core Ultra 9 275HX we have already tested in the ROG Scar 18 and the before mentioned RTX 5080 with a max TGP of 175 watts. Add 32 gigs of RAM and two 1TB SSDs and you'll have all the ingredients for a good gaming laptop in 2025. In terms of size and weight, the Aorus is the average 18-inch laptop, so it's neither the thinnest nor the lightest, but it's also far from the heaviest. However, you would have to keep the overall dimensions in mind when shopping for a backpack for this one. I was also pleasantly surprised by the overall chassis quality. It may be plastic for the most part, but the Gigabyte is built like a tank, and especially the base unit feels a lot more sturdy and rigid than the Scar 18, for example. Of course, whether you like the overall design will be very subjective. Personally, I think it looks good, but I could also do without the tagline on the lid and the massive Aorus logo over the touchpad and palm wrist area. The RGB implementation is also quite nice, but I would prefer the more diffused underglow of ASUS's solution. The port selection offers pretty much everything you would expect from a modern desktop replacement of this size. On the left, you get your power connector, networking, HDMI 2.1, a USB-A and a Thunderbolt 5, while the right side of the chassis houses an additional pair of USB-As, Thunderbolt 4, a very welcome full-size SD card reader and the audio port. Gigabyte is also properly taking advantage of the massive chassis when it comes to RAM and storage upgrades. And the Aorus Master allows for some pretty bonkers configurations, since you have 4 SODIMMs and 3 NVMe slots at your disposal. So if you are into anything that requires a lot of RAM or want to download your Steam library in its entirety, this one has got you covered. Regarding inputs, the Aorus offers a very good average for both the keyboard and the touchpad. The switches offer solid travel and a somewhat clear pressure point and good feedback overall, while the touchpad is big enough to allow you to navigate through your content and click on things without a problem. This brings us to the Master's display, and when it comes to handling local dimming on mini-LEDs, Gigabyte seems to follow a similar approach to Lenovo, for example with their Yoga Pro 9. This means that in SDR, the 18-inch 240Hz panel behaves like a traditional IPS, so you get average contrast results and good enough overall brightness. That's actually quite okay for everyday kind of stuff, since you do not have to deal with blooming, and it's also better for content creation workflows. This is especially true since you get pretty accurate factory calibration, and you can even improve upon these numbers with either manual calibration or by simply downloading the profile from our website. In HDR, you unlock the full brightness the panel is capable of, and I was able to almost measure the advertised 1200 nits. And similar to OLEDs, black really means black here. As a small tip, when I got the Aorus, some highlights in games were blown out, which you can easily rectify with the Windows HDR calibration tool. You can simply download it from the store, and it allows you to calibrate your experience, resulting in a much better picture overall. Personally, I am missing pre-calibrated profiles or at least an sRGB variant, but apart from that, Gigabyte nailed the display experience here and it's a pleasure to use, especially for games and pretty much everything else you can do with a laptop. Alright, let's talk performance. In our CPU rating, the Core Ultra 9 275HX with its 8 performance and 16 efficiency cores is behind the Scar 18, even though the chip can also consume up to 150 watts in short bursts before it levels out at around 130 watts when only stressing the Arrow Lake HX silicon. In our isolated Cinebench 24 run, single-core performance is pretty much on par with what we have seen so far, and again, while multi-core results are still better than anything from last year, you will not quite achieve everything the silicon is capable of. Our PC Mark runs tell a similar story, even though the Aorus offers basically the same results as the Scar 18, despite betting on a lower tier GPU. So in general, the 18-incher is a very capable machine, and since its actual purpose is to run demanding games, everything else you can do with a laptop these days is a piece of cake for the massive notebook. But as I mentioned before, this one is a stellar gaming machine, so let's back up my claims with a whole load of numbers. In our synthetic testing, the Aorus is not quite able to match the engineering sample of the Neo 16, but basically gives you 4090 performance. In both Firestrike and TimeSpy, the 5080 is able to match the fastest laptops we tested in 2024, and only in something very heavy like Port Royal can the last-gen flagships gain a small lead. And even the 5090s in the Scar 18 and the Razer Blade 16 are not that far off when it comes to raw GPU grunt. Native render performance in Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate show pretty much the same picture in CD Projekt Red's Evergreen, with the Aorus Master sitting very pretty between the fastest 4090 laptops and what we have been able to test for 2025 so far, with a small advantage for the 5090 in QHD and a bigger delta between Nvidia's new high-end mobile silicon in 4K. Baldur's Gate gives us pretty weird results and seems to favor either the 4090 or the last-gen CPUs here a bit more. In general though, you will have absolutely no problems running your favorite games on the Gigabyte, and once again, the 5080 can handle 4K without a huge problem, especially once you tap into the additional performance potential with DLSS and FrameGen. And speaking of Nvidia's AI helpers, as per usual I did some additional runs in Cyberpunk, both with normal ray tracing and path tracing, so you can get an idea of what different DLSS and frame generation settings bring to the table. I also tried DLSS overrides in AC Shadows, which basically allows you to upgrade the AI model to the latest version in the driver settings, even if the game does not officially support it. And since Ubisoft's latest RPG is quite demanding, especially with ray-traced global illumination, DLSS 4 does not only look better, but with 4x FrameGen, it is quite a smooth experience as well. It's not perfect visually, with some artifacts on fast-moving edges, but it never bothered me personally and I only ever saw it when really looking for it. But as always, your mileage may vary here. You know the drill by now, and Alan Wake 2 shows a similar picture. Interestingly though, the native results are actually almost identical between the Aorus and the Scar 18 with its 5090, and only with DLSS does the performance gap widen. So again, you should think long and hard about whether that would be worth it for you, given the pretty sizable upcharge for the new mobile flagship. When it comes to fan noise, we also have to talk about Gigabyte software. And I do not want to go quite as far as saying it has been the Achilles heel of their laptops so far, but while they offered a ton of functionality, navigating their control center and finding what you're looking for was quite a chore in recent years. The new Gigabyte application is definitely a step in the right direction. As a cynic, you could still say it's a bit too much, but on the other hand, you have quite a few options to customize the Aorus to your liking. You just have to spend a few minutes clicking around to familiarize yourself with the new UI. We did all of our testing in game mode with the fans in their performance setting, and with 4 fans in total and some very power-hungry core components, the 18-incher definitely gets audible. That said, balance is also a great option since the performance difference is negligible and you do not immediately have to have your headset ready. But please enjoy our noise samples, and for our usual suite of measurements, stay tuned for our written review, which will be out as well quite soon. While you will hardly be too far away from an outlet with an 18-inch gaming laptop, the Aorus surprised me with a very solid 6 hours and 20 minutes in our simulated Wi-Fi test, which puts it ahead of the Scar 18 and pretty much everything else from last year. So you can definitely go through your emails on your couch or watch some Netflix or YouTube in the kitchen without having to move your charger all the time as well. Alright folks, that would be the Gigabyte Aorus Master 18, and I have to be honest, I like this one a lot. It is a gaming laptop through and through with the performance and styling to match. Material quality is also very good despite the mostly plastic construction, and the display is simply amazing for all of your virtual entertainment needs. Add in a very generous selection of ports, extensive upgrade options and surprisingly long battery life, and the Aorus also covers the practicality side of things. It is still a premium product, but the 5080's performance really raises the question of whether the 5090 makes sense if you are mostly looking for a gaming laptop and do not need the additional VRAM or extra encoders for more specialized workflows, for example. I definitely had a ton of fun with this one, and if you're looking for a chunky desktop replacement, you should keep an eye out for the Aorus. That should also be it from my end today. Please leave your like and sub on your way out, and feel free to check out some of our other videos about the new 2025 laptops on the channel. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.